My film analysis I chose was of Up. Um, as a small synopsis of the movie, it's basically where Carl Fredricksen, who's a widower, promises his late wife that he would take their house and move it next to Paradise Falls, as that's what she's always wanted. And he ends up seeing a stowaway kid named Russell, who ends up on the house with him as it's taking off. And throughout the way, they have several adventures and encounters with other creatures and interesting people. Now, all the characters are really just Carl Fredricksen, or Mr. Fredricksen as he's known, Russell, the young boy, Doug, the golden retriever, Kevin, who is the Snape. Then there is Ellie, who is his deceased wife, but she's briefly in the beginning. Then there is Charles Muntz, who is the bad guy of the entire movie, and his three main dogs, Alpha, Gamma, and Omega. Now, the 6 concepts and theories that I have found in this movie are the social penetration theory, the self-disclosure, the demand withdrawal, listening, affectionate communication, and agape. The first concept I found of it is the theory of relational development that possess that increases in intimacy are connected to increases in self-disclosure, which can be your trust among significant others, your siblings, a close bond you may have with a friend, or even some family members. Now, with this theory, it's shown in the movie how throughout the entire movie, Mr. Fredricksen eventually learns to trust and understand what Russell has been going through, and Russell in turn understands Mr. Fredricksen's whole life, and how he may miss his wife extremely badly, and how her things mean so much to him. But there's also another demonstration where Russell talks to Mr. Fredricksen about his interests that he had with his father when they were walking in the woods. Another good example is when Carl and Ellie first met. Carl was very shy, but Ellie's outward personality helped him to come out of his shell, and through that they formed a close friendship, which later turned into a relationship. And at the end of the movie, Mr. Fredricksen had become the surrogate father of Russell because they formed such a strong bond, and he realized that Russell really needed a father figure since his father wasn't in the picture. Now, this theory can be applied to everyday life because it can be with the forming trust you have with a relationship of your significant other, a close friend, someone just you really trust. Then there's the concept that applies to it. It applies throughout the entirety of Up. It shows different relationships getting stronger, weakening, and just how they all form together in a way. The quality of the relationship, at first, Mr. Fredricksen was very negative with everyone. He didn't want anything to do with those who kept talking to him that wasn't Ellie. But later he starts to form a positive one with Russell and Doug and Kevin. And eventually he learns what it's like to have a positive relationship again. Now, my second concept is self-disclosure. And basically it means purposely providing information about yourself to others that they would not learn if you did not tell them about it. That could be fears, hobbies, your personal life, anything of the sort. There's one scene where Russell tells Mr. Fredricksen about his father and how his father knows all these camping things and how he knows all about the wildlife, but he never had a chance to go camping with him. And another scene shows Fredricksen being hostile towards everyone after a construction worker had almost knocked off his mailbox that he and his wife had made completely. He became extremely hostile and wanted nothing to do with anyone. Absolutely. It applies to everyday life because it can be what you disclose to someone who you truly trust and truly just need to rant to. It can be anyone from like your significant other, a good friend, someone, maybe even a therapist. The concept is effectively applied because it shows that Mr. Fredricksen learns to trust Russell with his past, and Russell trusts him because he sees him as a father figure of sorts. And he realized, Mr. Fredricksen had realized that Russell told him all about his dad because he feels a good trust with him. And he's lonely, and he really needs that father figure to help him grow up in a better lifestyle. My third concept is demand withdrawal, and the basis of it is it's an avoidance of conflict management in which one person makes a demand and the other does not want that same demand. It can be something from a relationship change, a disinterest in the relationship any further, or trying to get out of abusive or life-threatening relationships. A good scene that I found with this was when Mr. Fredricksen had met his idol, Mr. Muntz. And when Mr. Muntz had found out that they had found the bird he's been looking for and it was following them, his demeanor immediately changed to the point where Mr. Fredricksen did not any longer want to stay there and tried to get them out because he knew something wasn't right. The second demand withdrawal scene would be when Russell refuses to go with Mr. Fredricksen back to the house because he didn't choose to help Kevin at that time when Kevin was trapped within the net. He chose to save his house from the flames that Mr. Muntz had caused. And the third scene of him is when Mr. Fredricksen in the beginning refuses to leave his house even though other people have offered to buy it or he's been told to move to a senior citizen's home. This concept applies to everyone in life when a partner may want to leave a relationship for any given matter and the other partner does not want that. It's applied effectively in the movie by showing to kids that not every relationship everyone may want to stay in. And relationships can change, which is not necessarily a bad thing or a good thing at times. The quality of the relationship between Mr. Muntz and Mr. Fredricksen, you could see in the movie how Mr. Fredricksen used to idolize him, but after seeing his true colors, he no longer wanted to be with him, anywhere near him. And the relationship between Mr. Fredricksen and Russell, when he refused to go with him, he was very angry towards him for leaving Kevin instead of helping him. The fourth concept I found was listening. It's the process of selecting, attending to, creating meaning from, remembering, and responding to verbal and nonverbal messages. When you listen to someone, you truly pay attention to what they're telling you about them, that it can be as simple as you should be listening to a warning someone may be giving you, and listen to someone's cries for help even if they may not be as specific. One of the best scenes to describe this would be when Mr. Fredricksen turns off his hearing aid, when Russell starts talking about all the different clouds he learned from his group. But as he does that, they get closer to this storm, and he luckily hears the thunder, which causes him to turn it back on and realize they're about to hit a storm. If he didn't fully listen, they would have been in a big trouble and could have even possibly died. Of course, it's a Disney movie, but listening is applied to everyday life since we listen to everyone in the world around us, no matter who may it be. The concept of it is applied very well since we all need to listen to people, no matter what may be occurring. In the relationship Mr. Muntz had with the scientist who called him a fraud, he felt pure hatred for them and wanted to prove himself to them, and thus not listening to his inner self and the warnings of others, he became basically empatheticless. He lost his empathy. The fifth concept I had found was affectionate communication, which can be verbal messages, nonverbal communication, simple gestures, supportive activities that convey love, fondness, and or positive regard. And another good example would be empathetic listening, which is very important in many relationships. One of the scenes that displays it is at the very beginning when they show the montage of Mr. and Mrs. Fredricksen and the life they have together. All of their non-verbal but clear affection is very old-timey and very sweet. Another scene which shows the same affection is the way Mr. Fredricksen, feels towards Russell. He feels as if he needs to protect him, he needs to be there for him. And once they save Kevin from the sinister Mr. Muntz, he makes sure Russell is okay. That's the first thing he does. Now, affectionate communication applies to everyday life since it can be in all couple relationships, and they show non-verbal and verbal signs throughout all. This concept is effectively applied to the movie since you can tell that Mr. and Mrs. Fredricksen truly do love each other, and they show it through the montage with the little kisses and the way they look into each other's eyes and the smiles they'll give each other. And the quality of the relationship between the two is very loving and heartwarming. They show their love through their daily lives and activities, and they face obstacles together no matter what the consequences may be. Now, my last concept is agape, selfless love based on the giving of yourself to others. This can be giving love and not expecting anything in return, and it can be a love that parents have toward their children. The scene that best demonstrates this is when Doug risks everything to protect Kevin and the others from his old master and the group of dogs. He shows to them that he truly does love them and wants to help them no matter what. He doesn't care what the consequences may be. Another good scene is when Doug shows back up on Mr. Fredricksen's porch after he basically yelled at him and told him he was a bad dog for almost setting his house on fire, even though it wasn't Doug's fault. And Doug said that he returned because he loved him and he wanted to make sure he was okay. Agape in everyday life is how parents may feel towards their children, or how dogs will feel when they see their owner come home. It's just selfless love. It's complete loyalty, or unconditional love in a way. It's effectively shown when Doug does everything he can to help Mr. Fredricksen and Russell, and Kevin even. The quality of Doug's relationship to them is very loyal and willing to do anything it may take. And these are my references.